morning, everyone. Welcome to the Young Imagineers live, the third live lesson, live from my living room. Well, I say it's live. You might be watching it recorded, but as of this second now, I'm definitely live, I think. Well, it's only alive, hopefully, which generally helps. So wherever you are in the world, whenever you are in the world, welcome. To this, it's been a funny old year. If you're new to the Young Imagineers, by the way, I certainly forgot. You might not know what the Young Imagineers is. It's a really brilliant thing. Thank you to Equinor and the Science Museum for doing this, by the way. Well, what we do is we ask young people to think up ways of making the world a better place. What brilliant invention can you come up with that will make the world a better place? And then the idea is you sketch it out, draw it, come up with some ideas, write them all down, and then the winners get to come to the Science Museum in London. And we have this amazing day at the Science Museum. You have this beautiful big theatre and you come up and you present your ideas, and there are like experts and celebrities and robots, and we have a good time, and there's a cafe and there's a bookshop, and we have a great time. But obviously we're not doing it this year. Well, hopefully we'll be doing it again next year. But this year we've still been getting in your ideas. So what we've been doing is kind of theming these shows around sort of general kind of areas of what you've been thinking about, and they've been absolutely fascinating ideas. The first one we did was about sort of technology generally, and we were showcasing some of your ideas about technology. The second one was about what was the second one? Oh, it was about pollution and plastic, and you know, these are the things that you guys care about, which is really, really important. This one I think is particularly interesting and particularly pertinent, obviously, because it's all about health. And we are asking ourselves the question, are we taking care of ourselves? Are you taking care of yourself? What does it mean to take care of ourselves, particularly in this particular year that we've had, this sort of crazy year, which has all been about health, and you know, how can we make ourselves more healthy? What technology can we invent to make ourselves healthy? What does this mean? That, ladies and gentlemen, is what we're going to be exploring in the next half an hour. And I just want to say a huge thank you to all the schools for their challenge entries that you've been sending in. Before I go on, questions. You can put questions. I've been told, I think you can put them in the chat box in YouTube, if you're on YouTube, or you can ask questions on Facebook if you're doing on questions on Facebook. If you're watching this in the far future, in the year 3000, I've no idea how you ask. Send help is my only thing. So anyway, ask questions, and then throughout the show, I'll try and have a look at some of those. We've got a question already. I'm going to just address this question straight away. It's from William. Hello, William. I don't know where you are, but hello. I know a William. I wonder if it's the William I know. He says, Dallas, are you going to apply to go to space? No, is the simple answer to that question, on the grounds that I would be the worst astronaut ever. We can perhaps talk a little bit about that later on. Anyway, any more questions, please feel free. So anyway, big thank you to all the schools who've sent entrances, ideas, and challenge entries. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you very much. But our overall winner, drum roll, is Tom from Cubit School in Cornwall. Is that right? Yes, Tom from Cubit School in Cornwall. Congratulations to you, Tom. There's going to be some prizes winging their way to you somehow, magically. I have no idea how. I don't even know what the prizes are, but they'll be good. And so I hope you enjoy them. And his idea, Tom's idea, was a challenge to scientists, and this is particularly pertinent, to create a vaccine to cure and prevent cancer. Well, here we are in March of a year of lockdown. We now have a vaccine, and scientists all year have been coming up with vaccine. We've seen this unbelievable progress of science, of technology, of genomics, of all these different bits of science to do just that. Well, not cancer. Obviously, we've been creating a vaccine for COVID, but it's been an incredible year of scientific achievement, I have to say. And actually, cancer is another one. Cancer is obviously a disease that takes so many people. We do have a vaccine for forms of cancer, and I know some of you, perhaps when you get a little bit older, will be taking the HPV vaccine, which of course helps prevent cancer. So thank you, Tom, for bringing that up. It's a really, really important topic, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Okay, so looking after our health, it's important. Why is it important to look after our health? Well, obviously it's important to look after our health physically. We need to look after our body so we don't get sick. And also mentally, it's really important to look after our health. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But let's just focus on this year. This year, it's been particularly difficult, I think, to look after ourselves. I mean, just on a physical point of view, just getting exercise has been more challenging because most of us have had to adapt and change the way that we do things. So some of us might like to play football with our friends and we haven't been able to do that. Some of us might like to go to the gym and we haven't been able to do that because it's closed. Some of us might like to do all kinds of different sports that involve other people. So it's been much more challenging to think about how we exercise. I mean, there are things, of course, we can do like running and cycling and what have you. But it has been more difficult. Also been more difficult this year is the way that we buy and consume food. So shopping has been a lot more challenging for people. And also, you know, the fact that it's affected our mental health means that we haven't particularly maybe wanted to eat as healthily as we could. All kinds of different reasons that it's affected our health. The other thing is all this. We've spent so much time this year staring at screens. You know, we've been doing, you know, Zoom at school and classrooms and all that kind of stuff. So we haven't actually had the opportunity to get outside as much as we had. So here is my question to you. How healthy are you right now, do you think? One of the things that we often get in Young Imagineers is people coming up with ideas like inventing time machines. And I came across, I've actually, Eglo, if you get this slide up, I think this is a really interesting statistic. If you could build yourself a time machine and went back to the 1980s, if school pupils today had a running race against school pupils from the 1980s, more children from the 1980s would win. Now, there's all kinds of, you know, very interesting reasons why that might be the case, and you might want to discuss some of those reasons. But the upshot is we are just, on average, generally, and of course there's exceptions, we're not as fit and healthy as we were when I was a kid in the 1980s. So I thought what we could do is find out what we could do about that now. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is food and the importance of eating a balanced diet. Now, of course, so many of you will know this and you'll be eating healthy and you'll have this knowledge already. But I just, as a kind of experiment, I just went into my fridge this morning and I just wanted to sort of do a little audit to see what kind of things I've got in my fridge and in my cupboards. Like, am I having a healthy diet? So I went and had a little look. So I've got a tray. This is stuff that Dallas has in his, can you see this? In his cupboards and things. So what have we got? So little quiz for you. Spot the unhealthy thing, or spot the thing that is bad for you, I should say. So we've got an apple there. We've got a nice loaf of bread. Is bread healthy? That's kind of healthy. I've got an avocado because I live in an area where hipsters roam, and so avocados are plentiful there. I've got some eggs, healthy. I've got a rather old pepper. That looks pretty healthy. What about this? I've got some butter. Healthy or unhealthy? What about my giant bar of dairy milk that I completely forgot I had and found in the back of a cupboard? Healthy or not healthy? Well, my point is, I don't think there is such a thing as bad food. I mean, you might be saying, oh, the butter might be unhealthy and the chocolate might be unhealthy. But for me, and I think the important thing is, it's all about balance. So obviously we should be eating lots of things like fruit and vegetables and whole grains, that kind of thing. Less things like chocolate, but it doesn't mean that chocolate and butter is a bad thing. So sort of far from it. It's all about balance, eating the right amount of things. And also, of course, food makes us happy. It doesn't just keep us healthy physically, it keeps us healthy mentally as well. Now, here's a question though. Now, our bodies need food for the obvious reasons. It keeps us alive because of this process which we call respiration. We convert the food that we eat to energy, respiration. But I've always wondered, here's the thing, you know, when you eat things, obviously your important organs benefit from eating good food. But when we eat something like some chocolate, obviously we love the idea of eating chocolate, delicious, delicious, delicious. And then, of course, when it comes out the other end, slightly less delicious. But that bit in the middle, from in there to out there, it's slightly mysterious. Like, actually, what happens to food when you eat it? What happens to all those important organs when you eat food? I've decided to get in touch with some of my friends down at the Science Museum to help me understand a little bit more about my quandary.
Yes, Dallas is telling the truth. There are loads of amazing organs inside our body that are helping us keep alive. Let's take a closer look. Today, we're going to be looking at the journey our food takes as it travels through our body. in through our mouth and out the other end. This morning, Sam had a huge breakfast and it's currently sitting in his stomach, waiting to start that journey. Let's imagine this is Sam's stomach. The stomach is basically a muscular bag and it churns up all the food you've eaten to start to break it down. When he swallowed his food, he added saliva from his mouth, which has enzymes in it, and that acts as a catalyst to help speed that breakdown up. The stomach also contains juices that have lots of hydrochloric acid in them to help those enzymes even further. So Sam is going to add some enzymes and acid to his stomach now. Now, when your food is ready to leave the stomach, the muscles at the bottom open it up to let it out into your small intestine. Now, the small intestine is helped along by two really important organs, the liver and the pancreas. Now, the liver adds something called bile, which Sam is adding now. Bile helps break down fat, and it has a pigment that helps to give our poo that really distinctive brown colour that we're all quite familiar with. Now, moving on to our pancreas, this contains juices which are an alkaline, and this helps neutralise that stomach acid that we added earlier on. So let's see Sam add some sodium bicarbonate to neutralise his stomach. Sam's food can now travel to the small intestine, where even more enzymes are added. The food begins to be absorbed into the gut wall and into his blood, where it's carried around the body to wherever it's needed. Sam's food is now ready to move on to the large intestine. The large intestine basically acts like a sieve, and its job is to absorb all the water from your food, especially because water is really important for our bodies. Sam is going to use this sieve to strain all the water out. Pretty gross. Now we move on to the final part of our digestive system, the rectum. Your rectum is basically a waiting room for your poo. Sam's poo has been waiting a little while now, and it's finally time. When the rectum is full, the anal sphincter, which is the circular muscle in your anus, starts to relax, and all of the muscles start to force everything out. Now, Sam's stomach doesn't have a sphincter, but he does have a pair of scissors. Never take scissors to the toilet. That's better. So next time you're sitting on the loo, have a think about the incredible journey that your food has gone through throughout your body. Back to you, Dallas, to hear about some of these amazing competition entries.
Go into some detail. I didn't quite expect that level of detail. However, as long as I live, ladies and gentlemen, I will always carry those words with me. Never take scissors to the lavatory. There you go. You'll remember that for the rest of your life. You're absolutely right. We do have some. I've opened the chocolate now. This is what's happened. I've got sweet tooth. I've opened the chocolate. We've had some really, really good entries. So Scarlett from Graysby, All Saints Church of England Primary School, believes that we can improve the health of people by using microchips. Not oven chips, microchips. Microchips that record blood sugar levels for people. That's a really, really good idea. In fact, our relationship with sugar is quite interesting because, of course, we love eating chocolate. We love eating chocolate because it's sweet, and you might have a sweet tooth as well. But why do we have such a sweet tooth? The reason is, thousands of years ago, when we were hunter-gatherers and food wasn't as freely available, the high calorific food, very sugary foods, were much more, you got much more energy from them, so they were much higher value. So we evolved to actually really crave those high calorific foods, high sugary foods. And of course, these days, we don't have to hunt and gather, and food is much more freely available. I can just nip down to the co-op to get my bar of chocolate. I don't have to hunt or gather at all. Although at the moment at the co-op, it can get quite nasty actually in there. But also food is cheaper, but we haven't unevolved ourselves. So all that sweet food is around us. We still have that craving. And if we're not careful, we can take on board too much sugar, and that can lead to all kinds of problems. For example, I mean, Scarlett's idea about using technology to monitor blood sugar, it would be very, very helpful for a condition called diabetes, which some of you, of course, will have heard about. And this is a condition you can get from eating too much sugar. And it means that the body can't really control the level of sugar in the blood. But there is some amazing technology that can help, that can actually make people's lives a lot easier. So, Eagle, I think I've got a slide of this, actually. This is the CGM, the continuous glucose monitor. And actually, it's a very simple, excuse me, I've got chocolate in my mouth now. I'm eating chocolate. It's a very simple bit of kit. It's made of 3 parts. Okay, you've got a sensor, and that's, you know, a small device that you stick on your arm or your tummy or wherever. And that senses how much sugar is in the fluid under your skin. And then you've got a transmitter that sends the result to a receiver, and the receiver could be an app on your phone, and that displays your sugar levels. And something simple like that, even though it's not a cure for diabetes, it can help you monitor your health in a way that we just couldn't have done, you know, 30 or 40 years ago. It would have been absolutely impossible. But we have the technology, and it's thanks to the creativity of scientists and engineers to do things like that that's really, really improved people's lives. And that's why I want people like the Young Imagineers, your ideas aren't just ideas that we're going to forget about. Your ideas really are the ideas that are going to change the world. So sugar and obesity, sugar and diabetes is one problem. The other one, of course, is obesity. Now, we all know about obesity too. What happens when we eat too much glucose, too much sugar? You know, we can put on weight if we don't burn enough calories, if we consume more calories than we burn. And of course, controlling how much we eat is one thing, but exercise is also really, really key. And I just want to shout out here to Chloe and Annabelle at Staplehurst School, who believe the best way to be healthy is finding ways to encourage people to exercise more. I think this is a really good idea, because it's all very well to say just get out and exercise, but sometimes you don't want to exercise. You might not feel like it. You might be feeling a bit down. You might be just, you know, just don't want to do it. And actually finding motivational ways of doing it is really, really important. There's all kinds of different things that we can do now. Egla, I've got a little slide here. Walking and running, for example, there's the sort of Couch to 5K initiative that's designed to get people more enthused about getting out. Cycling more, and of course we've been seeing in cities, certainly where I live in London, there's many more cycle paths than there used to be. But also the apps like Fitbit, for example, and online streaming services like Joe Wicks, and some of you might do Joe Wicks's exercise classes, which is this year has been such a help, such a motivating force for people actually who are stuck at home, unable to get out, to still exercise. So the more we move our bodies and the more energy we use, that's going to reduce our risk of conditions like diabetes and of things like obesity. So there we go. So what does exercise actually do to your body, though? I mean, have you ever thought about what actually happens when you start exercising? Well, actually, what's going on physiologically in your body? Well, I thought we'd do a little experiment. Actually, maybe we should do some questions first. Should we do some questions first? Now, I'll tell you what, I'll do my Joe Wicks impression, and then we'll do some questions. So exercise, what you can do is, I want you all to sort of find your pulse. Basically what you want to do, if you can see it, you want to find on your wrist, use these 2 fingers, don't use your thumb because your thumb has a pulse in it, but these 2 fingers, and you want to, round about there, you should feel a beating pulse. If you can't feel a beating pulse, get help. Either medical help or someone to help you find your pulse. And you should feel it pulsing away. That's your heartbeat there. I can feel mine. Now, when you're sort of resting, when you're not doing much activity, you can count it. We normally measure it over a minute, but if you measure it for 30 seconds, say, get a stopwatch and just see how many times it beats over 30 seconds, and then you can double that number. So roughly for me, that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. No, it's not. It's going really, it stopped. Hasn't stopped. About 60 beats a minute, I would say. That's my kind of resting pace. Now, after you've figured out what your pulse rate is when you're just resting, I want you to get all Joe Wicks on me and do some exercise. Okay, so I'm going to do that now. I'm going to do that. I'm going to stand up. How does Joe Wicks, I haven't watched Joe Wicks for ages, but I'm going to do that. Basically, any exercise will do. So just find a bit of space, and I'm going to do some star jumps, and then I'm going to take my pulse again and see what happens. So I'm going to do some star jumps for Eglet. Tell me when 30 seconds is up, please, because I forgot to do a timer. This is when Egla's going to make me do this for like an hour. You don't have to do star jumps. You could do burpees. You could do press-ups. Oh, just give me the thumbs up. I'm going to keep going. Okay. I've burnt off half of that square of chocolate I just ate. Okay, so just a little bit of exercise, even like that. Let's take my pulse now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just, you can feel your pulse quick. And so what I want you to do after your exercise, after you've done 30 seconds, take your pulse and make a note of it. And it should be faster. I can feel it racing away. Anyway, so there you go. That's a little demo just to show you what happens, how your heart rate is increased. So basically, the more we exercise, the more we work out our heart, the stronger it's going to get, and it's going to increase our overall fitness. And eventually, you'll feel the benefit. And it's worth with exercise. It's getting into a routine as well. It's not just about doing it once and then forgetting about it. Getting into a routine is really, really important. Right. Okay. Little quiz for you. Oh no, let's do some questions. Just while I get my breath back. What have we got? Oh God, we've got loads of questions. Am I going to space? No. Hannah wants to know, what's the weirdest thing you do to stay healthy? Wow, that is what's the weirdest thing? I don't think I do anything too weird. Tell you what I like to do is I like to run. I go running with my friends, and actually just running with a friend, it's sort of good because it gets you healthy, and I like running, and I like the kind of meditative state when you run as well. You kind of get into a bit of a zone, so you're working your body physically but also mentally. And also I don't run very fast, so we get a chance to chat. So it's kind of half therapy, half meditation, and half physical exercise. That's quite weird because there's 3 halves there, so that's quite good. So that's my weirdest. Oh, the other thing I like to do to exercise is I like to play a musical instrument. I like to play my guitar, and that helps. It's a different kind of exercise, but the sort of coordination of my fingers I think is really good. So that's not really weird, but that's what I like to do. James, hello James. James wants to know if you've had the vaccine for the coronavirus. Well, we'll be talking about vaccines. The answer is no, because I'm so young. And they're doing it in kind of chronological order, as it was, and I'm only 20 something, and a bit more than 20, James. So I haven't had it yet, but I tell you what, it is amazing the speed at which we're getting vaccinated. I have to say, I mean, it's hats off to the scientists who have made this happen. Mariam wants to know, how many minutes do you have to exercise a day? Well, it's a good question, actually. Again, I think you don't even have to do lots of exercise every day, but sort of 3 times a week. I mean, I try and exercise personally sort of 3 times a week for about an hour a day. But any exercise is good exercise. Half an hour, certainly at school, you just generally running around, you get lots of exercise. It's when you're sort of sitting down in front of a computer is when it gets to be a bit of a problem. Eve wants to know, if you just ate fruit, would you be unhealthy because you don't have a balanced diet? I think that's a really good question, actually. We always tend to think of fruit as being the healthy thing, but actually fruit's it's very high in sugar. It's very sugary. So yeah, I mean, there's things like apples are great because they're not too sweet. And also they've got lots of fiber in as well. So apples are very good. But, you can't just live on apples alone. Although if you're a hipster, you might just want to live on smashed avocados. They're also very good. So yeah, it's all about variety. It's all about balance. It's all about things like whole grains and everything. So you need a bit of everything is my advice. Let's have a little look. I'm gonna have to pass this question. It's a poo question. I'm gonna have to give it to my friends at the Science Museum. Hi, I'm Amber, and I'm 10. And why is our poo sometimes hard? It's a really good question. To be honest, I'm not an expert. You want to download the Bristol stool chart, it's called, and the Bristol stool chart is a sort of gradation of your poo, and you can look at the Bristol stool chart and measure your poo against it, and it's quite interesting. But of course, what your poo looks like is generally a reflection of what you've been eating. So things like lots and lots of fiber is very, very good for good, healthy pooing. How do we get onto poo so much? I didn't mean to talk about poo so much. Okay, here's a little quiz for you. Thank you for the questions. I might answer some more of those in a minute, although they're quite hard, your questions. But thank you for those. Right, which of these are true and which of these are false? So this is just for you to do at home. If it's a true statement, thumbs up to your teacher or your parent or your carer or whoever you're with. And if you think it's false, thumbs down. Very simple. Okay, question 1. Exercise releases hormones that can boost your mood. Well, I'm going to give that a thumb because I first-hand experience. I always find if I do exercise, if I go for my run, I always find I'm much happier if I've been running. So thumbs up for me. Question number 2. Exercise can help you sleep at night. Oh my goodness. What do you think? Exercise can help you sleep. For me, it's a total thumbs up. I sometimes really, really struggle to get to sleep for all kinds of reasons. And I find if I've been for a run that day, it's much, much easier for me to go to sleep. So that's definitely a thumb up. What's the next question in my quiz? Exercise can help your heart stay healthy. Well, as I've just demonstrated with my slightly low quality Joe Wicks impersonation, it definitely helps your heart. And you can try that. Just take your pulse as we did, and then take your pulse again after exercise, and you can see how it keeps your heart healthy. Exercise can increase flexibility. What about that? Can exercise increase flexibility? Yes, it can. It depends on your exercise. As a runner, someone who likes running, I have to make sure I stretch things like my hamstrings and my quadriceps, and because they can get very, very tight from running. So it's really, really good to stretch. But lots of exercises can help your flexibility, and it's very good for all aspects of your body, really. So yes, thumbs up for flexibility. And the final question is, exercise can be fun. What do you think? Yes, definitely can be fun. One of the exercises I love to do when I used to do before lockdown happened was I used to go out to the park with a group of friends, and we used to do circuit training. And I used to love doing circuit training with friends, running around, different activities, star jumps, burpees, all that kind of thing. Really, really good fun. So yeah, exercise is fun. It helps your flexibility. It helps you stay healthy, helps you sleep, and it can boost your mood. Basically, all of my quizzes, it was a bit of a trick quiz, really, because there's basically no negatives. So it's all thumbs up. So there you go. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about food. We've talked quite a lot, more than enough about poo, I think. Any more questions? That's a little... Wow, this is a really good question. Approximately how many glasses of water should a normal human like us have in one day? It's a really good question. I don't think, people talk about 7 glasses of water, 2 liters of glasses of water. It's really important, actually, to keep hydrated. And it was something that I really struggled with. I just didn't drink enough water. And actually, the more water I drank, I feel so much better. And goes back to poo again. It's really good for that. It really helps to stay hydrated. It's good for your mental state. It's good for concentration, and it's good physically. So keep hydrated, keep drinking water. How many glasses do you live on a day? It depends on how big your glass is, but I have, 2 or 3 big glasses of water a day, and that seems to be good. But yes, lots and lots of water is very, very important. Gosh, here we go. Hi, my name's Liv, age 10. My question is, what is the healthiest food on earth, as well as why do children have stronger immune systems than adults? Well, kids have stronger immune systems because as adults, we just tend to kind of wear out a bit as we get older. I mean, I'm obviously terribly young, so I'm absolutely fine. But when you get, really, really old, our bodies just kind of wear out a little bit. So kids, you're young and you're strong and you're fit. And so that's why. What's the most healthy food on earth? Could it be that? Maybe not that. Maybe that. I don't think there is a most healthy food on earth is the answer to your question. There are certain foods which just provide a lot of things like vitamins and fiber. So apples, you can't really go wrong with an apple. If you wanted to have a top 10 of healthy food, there is a reason why they say an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Apples are very, very healthy. But even things like avocados, which we were talking about, very high calorific food in avocado, full of fats, but full of good fats, really, really healthy fats. So these are really healthy too. Things like this sweet potato, that's a fantastic food to eat. And I love sweet potatoes. You can chop them up, you can just stick them in the oven, you can mash them, do whatever you want with them. Really, really healthy, full of vitamins, full of all kinds of things that are good for you. And that they have that slow release energy. So things like my chocolate, delicious, but you don't want to eat too much of it because the energy inside just releases really, really quickly and then vanishes. So you get really, really hungry again. So you want to try and, in terms of healthy foods that have slow release of energy, things like whole grain rice, porridge, that kind of stuff. And you can make all those foods delicious as well. So there we go. So we've talked a little about food. We've talked quite a lot about poo. We've talked about things like diabetes. We've talked about all these kinds of things. I want to just talk quickly about invisible things, because part of the conversation that we've had this year has obviously been about the virus and about how things like viruses and bacteria and germs can make us ill, but also how do we see them? I mean, how do we know that they exist if they're invisible because they're so small? Well, I don't know if you remember in the first lesson, we were talking about a particular kind of light on the electromagnetic spectrum. Well, actually, that particular kind of light, whose name has temporarily escaped my brain, is really, really important for being able to identify and see these kinds of tiny little bacteria and viruses, but also getting rid of them as well. I'm going to throw it over to my friends at the Science Museum who'll be able to tell us a bit more.
Dallas, did you forget what UV light was? Well, it's part of the electromagnetic spectrum. I can tell you a little bit more about UV light than just that. Do you know that UV light can be used to see things that you can't see with your eyes alone? Bit confused? Well, let me show you how. Now, maintaining good levels of hygiene actually keeps your body really healthy. I wonder, how many of you have washed your hands today? I bet you have. And that's the simplest way of removing bacteria and germs, washing your hands. Now, let's have a look at my hands. They look pretty clean. So we're going to use this lotion. So I'm going to pop some of this lotion into the middle of my hand. There we go. I'm going to rub it in. I want to rub it in so that you can't see any of like the residue of the lotion. There we go. There we go. That's my hands. And I might actually pick up this cup, put my hand around that, maybe take it up. Oh, lovely. And I might just touch this table, just because we do that a lot. Touching things, and we can't see the lotion anywhere. We can't see it on the cup and the table and my hands, but with the UV light we should be able to see how far the lotion has spread. Let's take a look. Now what we should see is the lotion showing up on the table, on the cup, on my hands, and that's because the lotion absorbs the UV light, and that's why this lotion shows up. Now imagine if this was a disease. Oh, it would be spreading all over the place. But if you washed your hands, you would help to prevent the spread. And that's why hand washing is really, really important in terms of keeping your body nice and healthy. Now the thing about UV light is actually it's used to clean hospitals, like hospital rooms and wards in hospitals, because it's very good at killing viruses. Now Dallas, that's all from us here at the Science Museum, but we look forward to sharing more with you very soon.
Wash your hands. Hands are really useful for all kinds of things, but blimey, they spread germs everywhere. It's amazing. That was an amazing video. Thanks guys for that. Really, really interesting. Of course, we've heard about washing our hands incessantly all year, but it's really important, not just for your health, but for everyone else's health as well. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, that's, it's going to help. Simple things like washing your hands is going to help spread diseases. Help stop spreading diseases, I should say. Thanks very much. Okay, the other thing, just very quickly, I want to talk about is mental health. We've been talking about physical things like bacteria and viruses and food and the importance of that, exercise. Mental health, the pandemic, particularly this year, I think has affected people's mental well-being, an extraordinary amount. And that's something that a lot of you have been writing in about. So thank you very much. Particularly, there's just a few shout outs I want to do here. Rebecca from Bishop Road Primary School, Kimia from Croydon High School, and Ariana from West Town Lane Academy, who all think that more can be done to focus on looking after people's well-being. I think that's really, really important. And I think the important thing to remember about that is that everybody is different. All of our mental states are different. There is no such thing as normal. So our thoughts and our feelings are constantly changing throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the year even. And so nobody feels exactly the same as everyone else. So I think it's really, really important with that in mind to be extra kind to yourself and to other people, knowing that we're all very, very different. So that's really important. And of course, there's lots of kind of technology that can help that as well. Apps that will stop bullying at school and these kinds of things I think are absolutely vital. So thank you very much. So diet, exercise, And also mental well-being, really important in terms of mental well-being. If you do feel that you need to get help, is to talk to somebody and get support and let people know how you're feeling. That's really, really, really vital. So thank you very much for everyone for tuning in. I'm going to do a couple more. Egla, have I got time for a couple more questions? I know we're kind of running out of time. Okay, she's nodding. Molly Crockett. Molly, what would happen if you had no skin? My name is Molly. God, that's a terrible thought. What happens if you had no skin? Well, I think your skin, that's like the biggest organ of the body, isn't it, your skin? I think if you had no skin, you'd be in a lot of trouble. That's as detailed as answer as I'm going to give you. It'd be very bad if you had everything would just fall out if you had no skin. That'd be awful. So skin, look after your skin, Molly. It's really, really important. Your skin is useful for so many things. You sweat through your skin. It helps regulate temperature. Vitamin D from the sunlight. All these things. Your skin is absolutely vital. So you wouldn't get very far, and you wouldn't be waterproof either without your skin. I don't know if that's true. I'm just joking. And this is a good question as well. Someone wants to know, my name is Pranotti, and I wanted to ask, are tomatoes a fruit? Yes, I would say they are. They've got seeds in them. They're a fruit, aren't they? That's a bit like the old Jaffa cake question. Is a Jaffa cake a biscuit or a cake? And I think there was an interesting court case about, I can't remember what happened. But yes, tomatoes are a fruit. But I don't really think, someone's going to be very pedantic, I know, and tell me they're not a fruit. It's going to be something else. But I always think they're a fruit. But I don't really think of them as a fruit because I chop them up and put them in my salad. What else? Here's a good question. My name's Zara. I wanted to know, why do we need sleep and would we die without it? Yeah, you would actually. There is a world record for the longest someone has stayed awake. It's really, really important to get sleep. Being tired throughout the day, because it's a time for your body to reset, to rest, for everything, to your brain to, unscramble itself. It's a vital thing. And I think particularly nowadays, particularly with things like smartphones and computers and social media, it's very, very easy to have our sleep interrupted, and it's going to cause and is causing all kinds of terrible health problems. So sleep, yeah, very, very important. We're running out of time. I want to say thank you very much to our young Imagineers. Health is a great topic for scientists. We are going through a revolution because of science and technology in terms of health. And your ideas as scientists of the future are going to take that revolution even further. You are going to change the way that we think about our bodies, that we think about our physical selves and our mental selves. And it could be inventing new vaccines. It could be inventing better apps. It could be making apps that do all kinds of things. And I want you as young Imagineers to keep going along that path. It's really, really important. So we asked a question at the beginning. Do you think we are looking after our health? Well, only you can really answer that. But I hope we've talked about some things that are interesting. And I hope you'll take some of the things that we talked about today and discuss them further with your teachers and your parents, because we've only just really scratched the surface. But for me, thank you to Equinor. Thank you to the Science Museum. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. It's been my absolute pleasure. Hopefully next year we will see you at the actual Science Museum for fun times in the theatre. Until then,